Hello, and welcome to the Built to Be Human podcast, brought to you by the Functional Living Academy. I'm your host and guide, Liam Gallagher. So today I'm going to talk about self-talk. I've been talking about self-talk for a couple weeks now, so now I'm going to actually do it. The reason why I want to cover this topic is when I hear people talk to themselves or about themselves, I have to tell you I'm rather appalled. I hear people calling themselves stupid. I hear people calling themselves all kinds of derogatory things. And I really struggle to hear this. Part of why I struggle to hear it is because a long time ago now, I really addressed the way I spoke to and about myself. And the reason why I did this is I realized that some of the things that I was saying to myself, and some of the things that I hear other people say to themselves or about themselves is actually very damaging. When a person calls themselves stupid for having done something that was silly, um, they are creating a scenario where a part of their brain is going to believe that they're actually stupid, whether they are or not. So what I found is when people repeatedly refer to themselves as stupid or dumb or any sort of other derogatory message that they give themselves, especially on a regular basis, it really creates and manifests a mindset that is not all that conducive to well-being. And basically what ends up happening as we say things to ourselves like I'm stupid or I'm dumb. There's a whole bunch of them. And what I found is what really ends up happening is it causes it to be difficult to trust ourselves. It causes us to question our decisions. It causes us to really second guess pretty much everything that we do. So the way have learned to address this, and it did take me a couple of years. Now it's been 15 plus years since I really addressed this issue. And what I've learned to do is if I do something that's really not the wisest thing to do, I'll literally say, well, that was silly of me. Or I'll say something like, oh, don't do that. You know better than that. But notice how everything that I'm saying is done in a positive light. Don't do that. You know better than that. And that's a statement. Don't do that. You know better than that. That's not saying you shouldn't have done that. That's not saying anything. It's validating the fact that I did indeed know that I probably shouldn't have done that in the first place. And it's allowing that to be a mistake that I've made so that I can learn from the mistake and move on. And I'll say it that way specifically so that it imprints on my mind at the moment I say it or do it, that this is not what I need to be doing going forward. Another thing that I like to say is that was silly of me because that was silly of me. That's rather an innocuous way of putting it. I will say that something I've done is stupid. But calling something I've done stupid versus calling myself stupid is entirely different. It's not even in the same ballpark. So I won't say that was stupid of me. I'll say something like, doing that was probably kind of stupid. Again, I'm calling the action stupid, not myself. I'm allowed to do things that are stupid. I've probably done a whole ton of things that are stupid over the course of my life. But that doesn't mean that I'm stupid. That might just mean in the moment I was distracted or what have you. But it allows for me to be kind to myself. It allows for me to take into account that I'm going to make mistakes in life, and that as much as I'd rather not make big mistakes, they're really not that big of a deal. As long as I'm not attacking myself, it's going to be okay. So when I stub my toe, it doesn't happen very often anymore, but when I stub my toe, instead of that was dumb or I'm dumb, I'll say that was silly of me, or don't do that. You know better than that. And I'm sure just through listening to me repeating this and saying it, you can feel the difference in yourself hearing me say these things to myself. It's fascinating. So I won't call a person stupid. I'll call something that they've done stupid. Again, I'm not trying to insult people. I'm just observing. I'm literally calling a situation the way that I viewed it in the way that my mind registers it. So again, to me, that's fair game. If I start condescending to people, if I start condescending to myself, that's really not appropriate. It's not helpful at all. I think of the Twiddle song where they say, "Be kind, your mind is the most important thing," and it's very true. If we really watch the way we talk to ourselves, we say things to ourselves like, "I love and accept myself," "I love my life," "I'm safe and secure," even. That's a far cry from, "Boy, I hate myself. My life fucking sucks." And all the negative things. Your life might suck at the moment. My life has sucked multiple times as I've gone through it. But that doesn't mean I say that I hate my life. I've gotten very specific and I'll say, I hate when that happens, or I hate being in this situation, because those are valid. Those are statements that I can honestly say that is not taking away from who I am or my abilities or what I've accomplished. So when we come across something that we don't like, it's okay to comment that we don't like it, but don't take it on as something that's your own fault. That's where most people make the mistake. Did I do something stupid? Yes, I did something stupid. Does that make me stupid? Not at all. And I hope that I'm describing this in a way that's able to make it cohesive to you. From a psychological standpoint, if we start ridiculing ourselves, that is even worse than when somebody else ridicules us, because that's straight from the source. That's in our own voice, that's in our own thoughts, and that's something that we will adopt quicker. So when you have other people telling you you're stupid, that's not very fun either. So why the hell would you do it to yourself? I don't understand where people have picked up this habit. I don't know if I mentioned it on the podcast before, but I'm a huge fan of Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication. And what I do in terms of self-talk is largely related to what he talks about with nonviolent communication. And nonviolent communication, what it basically equates to is observing and then letting the person that's involved with you in the situation know how what just took place affected me. So instead of saying something like, uh, uh, I don't, why did you do that to me? You're such an asshole. That's a very aggressive way of saying something. What I do instead is I'll say something like, when you did that, it really caused me to feel uncomfortable. And it allows it to be a discussion. There's no judgment in that. That is literally a description of what my experience has been as a result of engaging in this situation. So if I'm going to do that with other people, why wouldn't I do it for myself as well? So what this looks like is I may have to get something accomplished. And I might spend 3 or 4 hours trying to accomplish this. And after the third or fourth hour, I realize, oh, crap. I'm going about this completely the wrong way. No wonder why I'm not completing this. Instead of being like, well, what the fuck are you doing? I'll say something like, oh, well, I'm glad I figured it out now. And then I'll redirect myself and then I'll continue on. Of course, if I end up having to redirect myself in that way, I'll do it with words. I'll do it out loud to myself. And I do it that way to help to reprogram the way that I view things, the way that I respond to things. And it also drives further into my brain the fact that this particular approach to something is not something I ever even need to revisit. So if I'm finding myself in that situation and I'm calling it for what it is in a gentle way, then it gives my brain, my animal brain, the way I'm hardwired, it gives my brain the chance to reroute before even coming up with that sort of idea for myself as far as what I should be doing and what I should be accomplishing. So just a quick recap. It's very important that we don't say things like, I hate myself. It's very important that we do not say things like, I hate my life. As much as you may hate yourself at times, and as much as you may hate your life at times, call it for what it is, because the brain doesn't really hear any different. If I say to myself, I hate myself, that's profound. But if I say, I hate when I'm in this situation, then my anger, my hatred goes towards the situation itself, which allows my brain, my animal brain, not my intellect, it allows my animal brain to seek out ways to help avoid that particular sort of situation going forward. So again, I know this is kind of subtle in its way, but it's also very profound. The more that we talk to ourselves in a kind way, the more specific with our words that we are, the more we call things as they actually are and keep our own selves out of it. If I'm commenting on a situation, it's the situation I'm referring to, not myself, not even my own actions in the situation. So if I have issues with actions I've taken in the situation, I'll address the actions. I don't, that was silly of me. Why did you do that? You know better than that. Those are very honest and eye-opening ways of responding. If I just am sloppy with my language and say, well, I fucking hate myself, what is that really going to get me except for depression, a lack of self-trust, a lack of confidence? So if we have confidence, the way we cultivate self-confidence is through talking to ourselves in a kind manner, in a way that allows us to be the people we are and make the mistakes that we make and do stupid things, but it doesn't allow for us to take responsibility for being stupid. It doesn't allow us to take on the identity and the persona of an idiot. And that's really what all this is about. So I would love it if you guys, over the course of the next week or so, really start paying attention to how you talk to yourself. I definitely struggle socially. I have for years. Part of it's my intelligence. Part of it's I don't tend to approach life the same way a lot of the people around me approach life. But if I were to start condescending to myself because of those differences, if I were to start blaming myself for the fact that I don't have a better social life than I have, then I'm going to perpetuate the problem. I'm going to make it worse. My confidence in going out is going to diminish. When I call it for what it is, I hate social media. I've said for years, what would happen if we didn't have social media? People would actually socialize, and I wouldn't have such a problem with my social experience. So again, that's fair. That's me saying, okay, this is really what's causing it. The society I live in is incredibly compartmentalized at this point. I was just talking to a buddy of mine the other day, and I said to him, I was talking about, I wish I could meet more people. And he goes, well, why don't you go out? And I was like, well, where the hell am I going to go out? I don't have a whole ton of money. I'm not trying to go down to the bar. Why would I go down to the bar? I'm not that big of a drinker. I don't like being around people who are drunk. The restaurants I eat at are very expensive because I eat clean food. So I'm limited on what I can afford to go out and do. But at the same time, the rest of society that I'm a part of at this point tend to stay in their houses looking at their boxes, their computer, their phone, their television, as opposed to going out and doing anything. So unless they're going somewhere to an event of some sort, they're going out to dinner, they're going to the grocery store, those sorts of things. So, but again, instead of saying directly that it's my fault, you're an idiot, you can't socialize. Well, that's not really true. I can socialize really well. Every time I have somebody come in to the shop, or visits me at the flea market, I speak to people very easily. I have no problems just meeting somebody for the first time. And if I see an opening where it's appropriate for me to kind of let them know what I do and what they can have access to through me, I absolutely do that. I have no problem striking up a conversation in the grocery store line. I have no problems saying hi to people as I'm walking by. So again, it's not that I struggle socially because I'm bad at being social. I struggle socially because of the society I live in and the mindset that pervades it. So again, because I'm calling it so specifically, it not only takes the pressure off of me and it takes the blame off of me, but it actually gives my animal brain the ability to process information and to try to come up with ways that I can work around it, that I can get over the obstacle. So that's really what all this is about. And oh, by the way, were you aware that our conscious mind really wasn't ever designed for thinking? Our conscious mind is literally designed to observe and to make decisions. As we observe information, the information goes into our subconscious mind. Our subconscious is designed to process and categorize and put the information in its place. Once that has happened and we're in a situation and we're observing things on a conscious level, it allows us to pick up cues that we would have never picked up before if we were consciously thinking. And it allows our subconscious mind to present options of how we can navigate the situation that we're in. So when I talk about speaking kindly to yourself, it ties in with the way our brain actually functions. We influence our thoughts by our thoughts and by our self-talk. And if we're able to stay positive, if we're able to keep mistakes from being the end of the world, instead of making a mountain out of a molehill, I can easily say, well, that was dumb. Doing that was probably the dumbest thing I've done in a while, because it probably was. That still doesn't make me dumb. That it never has made me dumb. Doing something stupid, we're all prone to doing something stupid. Sometimes I do something stupid intentionally just to have fun, just because I'm crabby for whatever reason. To be on my game at all times is not reasonable to think or expect of, or to expect of myself. So knowing this, the way that I've helped myself continue to evolve and continue to master myself and continue to have the best possible experience I can possibly have, I've just learned to rephrase things. I've learned, I keep struggling to comment on some of the other negative self-talk people use. And it's hard for me at this point because I've been practicing what I'm illustrating here for so many years, that my mind really doesn't come up with a bunch of examples of the other way of doing it, because I've almost eradicated that from my life. If I run into something, it's like, what the hell are you running into the wall for? Again, making it silly, making it seem like I did something silly instead of making it seem like I screwed up, that I made a mistake or something along those lines. And I'll tell you, it's made a tremendous difference in my life. It's made a tremendous difference in my mental health. It's made a tremendous difference in my self-confidence and my self-trust. And anybody that comes into my perimeter can feel the difference in me. It's not just something that they can observe. It's not something necessarily that even registers on a conscious level, but they can feel the confidence that I have. They can feel how secure in myself I am. And one of the ways that I've gotten to this point is by very, very specifically talking to myself in ways that cultivate the sort of mindsets that I'm after. Again, I love and accept myself unconditionally. I love my life. Those are two phrases that I've used extensively over the years. As a matter of fact, one of the first phrases I came up with, I was probably 10 or 11 years old, maybe 12, was "I'm a perfect and limitless idea." I figured that if I'm going to be brainwashed, I might as well brainwash myself to view myself in ways that are healthy for me. And when I was just getting started out, of course, being 10, 11, 12 years old, you really have a limited understanding of life and how it works and yourself. So because I wasn't really sure how to say some of the things that I've learned to say over the years going forward, I said, I'm a perfect and limitless idea. In other words, I didn't want to limit myself into something that was a negative. But I also didn't have the words and the experience and the understanding that I have now, which has allowed me to utilize words that are way more specific, that allow me way more freedom, way more self-confidence, way more compassion and patience with myself and with my life's experience. So I hope this is helpful to you. If you guys have any questions about this at all, please, 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 please drop it in the comment section below. And until next week, stay healthy, stay happy, stay curious, be good to yourself. Start speaking positively to yourself as opposed to negatively. And if you say something negative to yourself, that's okay, because it's probably a habit at this point. But if you say something negative to yourself and you catch it, what I would like you to do is immediately replace it with a positive, or replace it with something that's not damaging. So if you're used to calling yourself stupid, say that was silly of me, or call an action stupid, or say, no, I'm really not stupid, but that was pretty stupid to do. Start changing those thought patterns. The only way to do it is to actually consciously interrupt them. So if you find yourself saying, I hate my life, well, no, I don't hate my life. I just hate when this happens. The more specific we are, the happier we are. The more we're able to overcome things that we've been stuck dealing with for a very long time. So have a great week. Hope you're well.